Tobchukwu had spent years drowning himself in work, trying to fill the silence his late wife left behind. Lagos never slept, and neither did he. Its chaotic energy kept him moving, kept him building more branches of his tech empire. But inside his penthouse in Banana Island, one thing remained constant: his triplets. 3 sharp-eyed, loud, mischievous 7-year-olds who had inherited their mother's smile and his stubbornness. They were his world, his only reminder that life could still be soft. Yet even they had begun to crave something he couldn't provide: a mother's touch. The questions started innocently. "Daddy, why don't we have a mummy like others? When will you marry again? Can't someone help you take care of us?" At first, he dodged them, offering ice cream and weekend trips to Lekki Conservation Center. But the children were smart. They wanted affection, not distractions. And every time they asked, a quiet ache pressed into the back of his chest. Tobchukwu had tried dating. Every woman he met smiled too much at his money and too little at his children. Even when he took them out as a family, he noticed the glances, calculating, strategic, rehearsed. Lagos was full of opportunities, and being with a billionaire was one of them. After one particularly embarrassing date where a woman confessed she was excited to join the Billionaire League, he realized the truth. No one saw him. They only saw what he owned. So, in a decision that shocked even his closest friend, he stepped out of his own life. He shut down his public appearances, delegated responsibilities, withdrew from the media, and adopted the identity of a struggling single father working as a delivery driver for a logistics company he secretly owned. The disguise wasn't dramatic, just cheap clothes, no luxury car, and a modest apartment in Aja. The rich were noticed, the poor were invisible, and he needed invisibility. Life became strangely quiet. No assistants, no bodyguards, no cars that announced wealth from a kilometer away. He woke at 5 a.m. to prepare breakfast, squeezed his children into a regular school where no one recognized their surname, and returned each evening exhausted from delivering parcels across Lagos traffic. Yet it felt real, raw, grounding, painfully honest. It was at the hospital where he first met her. Amara, a nurse who moved with quiet confidence and carried a softness that felt out of place in the harshness of Lagos. He had brought one of the triplets, Taif, who had injured his wrist while jumping off a school bench. Most nurses were polite out of duty. Amara was different. Gentle, patient, speaking to Taif like he mattered, not like he was just another child on her shift. She noticed Tobchukwu's worn slippers, his tired eyes, the faded delivery uniform. But instead of pity, she offered warmth. "You're doing great," she told him with a small smile, as if she understood the weight of raising 3 children alone. For the first time in years, someone looked at him. Not at the billionaire, not at the brand, but at the man holding his son's hand with fear in his eyes. And that moment planted a seed he wasn't expecting. Amara never meant to become part of their lives, but the triplets clung to her with an affection that grew deeper each time she saw them. It started with Taif's hospital visit, then turned into Tobchukwu stopping by the clinic whenever one of the children had a minor cough or scrape. Nothing serious, just enough for him to see her again. Soon she noticed the pattern. He wasn't careless, he was lonely, and the children adored her. They began calling her Auntie Amma, dragging her into their noisy world of questions, jokes, and wild imaginations. She had a way of calming them. One soft word, one patient smile, and the chaos settled. Tobchukwu watched all this quietly, the feeling in his chest growing heavier. Yet with every passing day, hiding who he truly was became a burden. He wanted to tell her, to explain why a man with his posture and confidence somehow lived in a cramped apartment and delivered parcels for a living. But fear held him back. If he told her too soon, she might think he tested her. If he waited too long, she might feel betrayed. And somewhere in the middle, he was falling in love with her sincerity, the kind that couldn't be bought. Meanwhile, Amara's co-workers began to notice the man who sometimes waited at the hospital gate with 3 loud children, who hugged her as if she were family. Rumors spread faster than a Lagos traffic update. Amara has finally settled for a delivery man. A whole fine nurse like you? No ambition at all. Don't you want a better life? At least someone who can take care of you. She ignored them. She had seen enough wealthy monsters and broke angels to understand that money didn't define a man's character. And the way Tobchukwu cared for his children, the tenderness he tried to hide, mattered more than anyone's opinion. But not everyone was content to mind their business. Adeobi, her jealous coworker, a woman who liked to attach herself to men with money and complained about being unlucky in love, became suspicious. She had sharp eyes and an even sharper mouth. One evening, she watched as Tobchukwu arrived to pick Amara up after a late shift. Though he wore cheap clothes, there was something about the way he carried himself, the quiet confidence, the subtle command in his tone when he told the triplets to stay close. "This one doesn't move like a poor man," Adeobi murmured to herself. She started asking questions about where he worked, what he did before delivery driving, why his children's uniforms were from a school more expensive than his shoes suggested. Amara brushed off her prying, but Adeobi wasn't the type to stop. She wanted proof that Amara was lying, or worse, hiding a secret romance with a married man. At the same time, far across Lagos, Tobchukwu's board members were panicking. Their CEO had all but vanished. Investors were calling. The media was asking questions. Rumors were brewing. A few loyal executives knew he needed time away, but no one imagined their billionaire boss now spent his days weaving through traffic on a motorbike, clutching parcels and dreaming of a woman who thought he had nothing. And the closer Amara grew to him, the more dangerous the truth became. The night of the fundraiser changed everything. Amara had not planned to attend. She didn't belong in rooms filled with Lagos' richest and most powerful. But her hospital had been invited, sponsors, benefactors, and philanthropists were expected. So she was assigned to represent her department. She arrived at the Eco Convention Center feeling slightly out of place in her simple gown, clutching her invitation like a lifeline. The hall shimmered with gold lighting, designer perfumes, and conversations drenched in wealth. She had no idea her world was about to shatter. The moment Tobchukwu entered, the atmosphere shifted. Cameras flashed. Executives stood straighter. Investors hurried toward him. His presence commanded the room effortlessly. He wore a sleek black tuxedo, surrounded by security, board members, and VIP guests. His face, confident, polished, influential, was unmistakable. Amara froze. That can't be him. But it was. The same man who picked up his children from school with dusty shoes. The same man who delivered packages under the hot sun. The same man who held her hand during quiet moments and watched her like she was the only calm in his chaos. The truth slammed into her like a punch. He wasn't just hiding something, he was living a lie. She turned to leave, but Tobchukwu spotted her. Shock flickered across his eyes before he excused himself from a group of businessmen and rushed toward her. He called her name softly, almost pleading, but she stepped back as if his touch burned. "So this is who you really are?" she whispered. "A billionaire pretending to be poor?" The words shook him. He tried to speak, but years of pain, fear, and loneliness tangled in his throat. Before he could explain, she walked out of the hall, tears threatening to spill. The triplets found her outside. Their little suits were crooked, their eyes wide and wet. "Auntie Amma, please don't go," Taif begged, wrapping his arms around her waist. "We didn't know Daddy was rich, Tari added tearfully. "We just wanted you. We love you," Teo whispered. "Please don't leave us." Her heart broke for them. She crouched and hugged all three tightly, burying her face in their shoulders. They weren't part of the lie. They were innocent, pure, desperate not to lose the one person who made their chaotic world feel gentle. But the betrayal cut too deep. She didn't know how to forgive a man who had let her fall in love with an illusion. What happened next stopped the entire event. Tobchukwu walked onto the stage where the host had been speaking, signaling the microphone to be handed over. Conversations hushed. Cameras turned. Investors frowned in confusion. He wasn't on the program to speak. But he cleared his throat, gaze fixed on Amara standing near the exit. "There is someone here tonight," he began, voice unsteady, "who thinks I lied to her, and she's right." Gasps rippled through the hall. He continued, "I hid my identity not to deceive, but to protect myself. I have watched people chase my money, my name, my position, but no one ever cared about my heart. Until her. Every camera in the room pointed at Amara. I met a woman who showed kindness without knowing who I was, who loved my children without asking for anything, who saw me, just me, and I was afraid. Afraid that if she knew the man behind the mask, she would treat me like everyone else does. His voice cracked.
Amare, I'm sorry.
For all of it, the hall fell silent. Everyone waited for her reaction, but before she could speak, the triplets ran to the stage, dragging a small poster they had colored themselves. On it were shaky drawings of 4 stick figures holding hands, with the words, "Please be our mummy." The entire hall softened. Amara's chest tightened painfully. She looked from the children to the man who had lied, but also the man who had loved her without pride, without power, without ego. He stepped down from the stage, eyes filled with fear and hope. For the first time, she saw the billionaire and the broken father as one man, not 2 identities, not 2 lives. Taking a shaky breath, she finally whispered, "I just wanted honesty. And you'll have nothing less," he vowed. The triplets wrapped around her legs again, cheering before she even said yes. And in that moment, surrounded by lights, witnesses, and an entire city watching, Amara realized the truth. She hadn't found love. Love had found her.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more teachable and inspiring folk tales by Effie.